Good morning, everybody. Let us start this session. Welcome you all to this very important initiative, Garze Marathi Job Interview Help. In this, we are trying to help our youths, those who are in the job market, those who want to take additional steps in their career, with the experts as to how we can be a successful or how we can crack interviews in a very successful manner. These are all experts. We will be having workshop from January, but before that workshop, we are going to have four webinars from our mentors as a curtain raiser. Today's speaker is Upendra Mardikar, who himself is an inventor, startup advisor, and accomplished author. He is a prolific inventor and cybersecurity and digital identity business enabled executive with an art of possible mindset, who led global teams to secure the world-class organizations, including American Express, Visa, PayPal, and is credited with more than 95 patents. Upendra is a chief security officer at Snap Finance, a leading omni-channel digital first fintech and POS leader, where he leads cybersecurity while building new platforms to enable growth opportunities. Upendra has tremendous experience in interview process, so he will be of his thoughts, his knowledge and experience will be of immense value to this. Over to this. So with this, I invite Upendra to take over. Over to you, Upendra.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anand, for kind introduction and really privileged and honored to speak over here. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I know some of you will be listening it from different time zones. Uh, Thank you, Anandji. Upendra Mardikar. I work out of our Silicon Valley office, and that's where I have been for last 25 years, since 1995. So this is, one of the biggest things is it's a very rewarding and fulfilling to help people, over here. And that's the real introduction about me, is that I would really love to give back to community. So with that, I will just, if you don't mind, share some of my thoughts. We have very esteemed audience over here. Lots of you guys have different experiences, and it's like an elephant with blind, people, where different people have different perspective. I would love to share my perspective and learn from you guys as to what your perspective. And with that, I will just start. As I hope you guys are able to see my screen. Just wanted to.
We can.
Okay, cool. Okay. So the topic today is, of course, it relates to interview and how you go through the interview process. But essentially, guys, this is all about how do we add value, right? And now value, when we say value, what does value mean? And who to add value and how to add value, all those questions might come to your mind. But let's go and get started. There are a couple of housekeeping items. These, I use in all my presentations. So these are my personal thoughts, and they do not represent my current or previous employers. And then the target audience is fresh technologies interviewing for jobs, and it's all based on public data and my own, thoughts over here. So, like Anandji said, right, I mean, I've been in cyber world for last 25 years, worked for, multiple companies. I'm from Nagpur, VNIT, did my MBA over here. I have some security certifications, and now, I have 96 patents. I'm co-authoring a book, speaking at multiple conferences. I advise VC firms as well as private equity firms and companies, startup companies. But the real identity, guys, is I want to give back, right? I mean, that's why this, whatever Garze Marathi is doing is so phenomenally rewarding for all of us. What is out of scope, right? I just wanted to make sure that I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how to convert J1 to H1, or how to apply for H1. That is not where I get, I bring my expertise. There are some experts out there in the industry. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask those guys about immigration tips. Getting called for a job interview, right? I mean, Lots of people reach out to me, hey, how can I get a call from, XYZ company? The thing is, it's more of a luck at that particular point. Unfortunately, it is out of scope to getting called for a job interview. Though if you reach out to me on LinkedIn and there are any LinkedIn connections, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. The promise is that I'll try to help, right? Doesn't matter who, because giving back is something that I will be humbled and honored to do. Tips about specific companies, like, hey, there is a company A, can you give me some tips? I can give high level tips, but that is out of scope of this presentation. So what do we want to do, our team, is that let's look at how do we add value, right? What companies want. I mean, there is a famous movie around it, and what women want and what men want and all that. Let's try to put ourselves into companies, shoes, and try to get inside companies. Like, let's curtain raiser, as it says. Let's take a peek inside companies first. Then, when you are interviewing, what to keep in mind, right? So there are certain tips, and more common sense-ish tips, but sometimes, in pressure or whatever, we tend to forget these things. Then what is 4 Ps of marketing, right? I mean, some of you who are experts in marketing, they know that there is product, pricing, placement, promotion, and then how to basically market yourself as a product, right? So how can you be a product to the company? And then what are some key takeaways? All right, so let's get started. What companies want? So let's look at inside the company. Right? If all of us who have been in the hiring side, on the other side of the table, who wants to find out who can we hire, and it can be an engineering role, it can be a management role, it can be program management role. It doesn't really matter what kind of role you are looking for. What does a hiring manager want, or what does the company want, is all about increasing value. Right. So value to who? Value to customers, to shareholders, and to employees, right? I mean, that is how the company is structured. So if I hire, somebody, the way at least I'm thinking about it is, will this hire, will she add any value to customers, to the project that I'm doing, getting at a very tactical level? And then, if you say that, hey, this guy can go ahead and deliver and execute on this particular code or this particular project or this QA, whatever that particular field is, will that particular person be able to add value? And value to the employees as well. We should not forget that. And that is one of the key considerations, because ultimately, we win as a team in any company, right? I mean, just like Garze Marathi, for example, is a team. Anandji is leading that effort, and Maharashtra Mandal as well. These guys are leading that effort, but we are all part of this team, and then we should all come together. But that is what is happening in the company's mind over here, that the new person that we are going to bring on the table, will that person increase value? And these are, if you forget, there is a not-for-profit organization, there is non-profit organization, but essentially all the for-profit organizations, they see this as an investment, right? So what does that mean? There are expected returns, and there is potentially an expected insurance from you. So it's just a business, right? I mean, at that particular point. So what does that mean? That means is that you have to know how to do your job. So when I hire somebody, that person should know what the job is. Can this particular person add any perpetual value? And can this particular person be a team player, can work well together? Because ultimately it's like a team sport. And when team sport, basketball, NBA, cricket, soccer, all these games come to mind. So if there is a team player, team member essentially in the game of, for example, basketball or cricket, that doesn't go well with other team members, potentially they, they may not get that particular person, even if it's, best and the brightest cricket player, for example, So the team has to gel, on the field. So when you are doing that every single day. So this is what the companies are actually looking for. It's an investment. If I'm giving salary $1, I'm expecting some returns as a couple of dollars, $2, or anything north of $1, right? So that is how what companies want from you. Another thing is, you have to think that when you are going through this interview process, quote unquote, right? There are humans on the other side. And it's not about, okay, do you know how to write code if you're interviewing for software, or if you're interviewing for hardware or whatever, right? It's just not about that. There are emotions involved. So humans are interviewing, and it kind of becomes and more of an art than science at this particular point. So you have to always keep in mind, and I have been in these interviews on the other side as well, where people might not be always in a good mood, right? I mean, they might have fight with their spouse, or something happening. Their dog is not treating them well, kids are not treating them well, so they might not be always in good mood. And with all this Zoom thing, Google Meet world, virtual world, if you will, what happens is that it's very, very difficult to see what kind of mood that particular person who is interviewer comes in, right? So you have to keep that thing in mind about the company. And honestly speaking, there could be different motives, right? I mean, what happens is that the hiring manager and the company might have one motive, but the interviewer might see you as a competition, for example. When, sometimes, to be very, very brutally honest, guys, it might not be fair to you. You might have all the skills. You may think that you have all the skills, but, just because who is on the other side, you may consider that person as an idiot when you're going through that interview process. But you have to see that, okay, that guy is a decision maker at that particular point, and these are all the things to keep in mind. And like I said, that person can see you as a competition, that, hey, if this person comes in and is smarter than me, what happens to me, right? So there could be those kinds of angles. And these are some of the nuances of interview, right? As to, you should be able to not only have a good IQ, but more of a EQ, which is the emotional quotient, and an SQ, which is a social quotient. So that is what you bring to the table, and that is your product, right? So, and we'll talk more about what those 4 P's are, but these are the nuances, guys. And it's just an art at that particular point. It's unfortunately not just what you know, whether you know this particular subject matter end to end, or it's all about how you navigate situation during this interview, right? So, but these are some of the cues that you have to keep in mind. And you're not the only one being interviewed, right? I mean, essentially what happens is that when you are going through this interview process, there are multiple candidates. There is an interview panel, and then, people say that, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and talk to these multiple people and pick up the best one, and sometimes, the decision might not be fair, but you have to keep that thing in mind as to, how can you go ahead and position yourself in a better way than others. And, there could be other connections that you are not aware of, there could be referrals, and, all these things you have to keep in mind. So don't beat yourself up if you don't get into your dream company this time, maybe next time, right? I mean, these are all the considerations. It's the point of this particular slide is there are more than the things that are obvious to us that are in play over here. Not to get scared, but just be aware of it. So there is a saying, right? I mean, you have to be careful, not scared, and that is what this particular slide, is meant to accomplish. So what do we do, right? So let's focus on what is on our hand instead of focusing is on what is not in our head. Like, for example, you might not have a connection, right? Okay, forget it, right? I mean, I will try to help. I'm sure, Anandji and other people, will all try to help as much as possible. But there is a limit as to how much we can help as well. So what happens is that you might not have any connections, and you may end up, facing an interviewer who is in a bad mood or may see you as a competition. Hey, what can you do, right? So the best thing that you can do at that particular point is what is under your direct control. What is under your direct control is make yourself the product. So what does that mean? And we'll just go into this product placement, promotion, pricing, and I'll give you one example as well, or a couple of examples as we go along this conversation. So product means what is the good or service that you are offering, right? I mean, that is a classic definition. In this particular use case, when somebody is hiring you, you are a product, for that. Do you have a skill set that will add value? Like, for example, you go to Macy's, right? Or any shop, for example, right? I mean, but let's say you go to Macy's, you want to buy a shirt or top, whatever, right? I mean, your clothes. There is a need or a want that you want to fulfill at that particular point, right? And then just to extend that particular example, that is what you are looking for. So are you a top or are you a pant or trouser when somebody is looking for a top or shoes or whatever, right? So the right fit is very important in this particular use case. Placement. So positioning of where the goods and services is offered, and we will talk about how to position it, in the brief, right? Then promotion. Promotion is nothing but not like, hey, tooting your horn, but it is how do you get noticed, right? I mean, without getting too pompous over here, you just get noticed over here. And then the pricing, what are the compensation expectations that you have in the sense that if a particular job, I can get that for $10 in the market, and if you're asking for $100 after everything, obviously there are other people who can take that particular role. So these are the 4 P's. We will start having that conversation in a second. Okay, what's product? So what this means is that if an employer is looking at you to solve certain need or certain want. For example, hey, I have an engineering need, and then I need a Java developer, and you think that you can apply to that based on the job description that you look at. What you should do over there is, first of all, look at technology. Do you have that skills? All right. And if you have that skill, you think that, yeah, I have it, on a scale of 1 to 10, and somebody says, hey, proficient in Java, for example, proficient in Go, right? I mean, whatever technology, whatever program management skills, whatever skills that you are talking about, you may think that, hey, I am on a scale of 1 to 10. Where do you see yourself, right? You evaluate, you ask yourself, because only you can tell where you are on a scale of 1 to 10. So there is an introspection, if you will, at that particular point, right? When you are doing an introspection of where you are on the scale of 1 to 10, and let's say you come up with a number like 5 or 6, you pick your number. What you should do is, how can I go one notch up from 5 to 6, right? Or 6 to 7, wherever you are, right? Going that one notch up, what you do is you try to brush up on the internet, make sure that there are multiple sites, how to interview, and the technology, the foundation is technology at that particular point. As I'm talking, the audience is software engineers, but it can be applicable to anybody, right? So what technology you are using, the company uses, and brush it up on the internet, right? So that is something that you must do, because if you don't have a solid foundation, solid knowledge about whatever you're doing, then it becomes very difficult. So don't show up to an interview saying that, oh, I will just wing it. Don't do that, please, because you're wasting your time, you're wasting the interviewer's time, because that is very precious. And it's just not fair to anybody, right? So my uh, humble request and suggestion, friendly suggestion, is go ahead and brush up on the technology, go fully prepared, right? I mean, over there. Another thing is focusing on the company, right? So if you are going to target a particular company and you have applied to that company, right? At that point, interviewer is spending his or her own energy to talk to you, right? So go with full respect at that particular point. Prepare about the company. Have you gone to their website? Do you even know what products they offer? What are their, have you done, do you know what job is, what the culture is? And there are multiple sites nowadays on the internet, that you can find, like Glassdoors and other kind of things. Just do the research on the company, right? And do you know what job is? I mean, these are very basic, but people miss this, right? I mean, when I have interviewed people, some people, okay, what business do you guys do, right? I mean, then that is an immediate no for me, because that means you are not serious about, applying for a job. So one of the things is researching the company, go to their about statement, looking for the behavioral statements, the mission, the vision, and see how it fits in your career. Because one of the questions that they will ask is, where do you want to take your career? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years? And that question, you have to see if it matches, and then come up with an answer which is not made up answer, which is a genuine answer at that particular point, and try to match it from the behavior perspective, right? And this is where you can neutralize some of the bad mood, some of the competitiveness, some of the not being fair. The behavioral side is where you can try to neutralize. Again, we are focusing on what we can control, not what we cannot control, right? So the behavior side of the equation is, are you confident yet humble, right? Because why will I give? Well, for example, if I'm going and again, taking that analogy in the NBA or whatever, right? I mean, or a team sport. If you cannot, shoot baskets, or if you cannot bat properly in cricket, using cricket analogy, I will, and you don't have that confidence that you can score that particular, run, or 4 or 6 or whatever, right? Then I will not get you on the team, right? So you have to be confident, yet very humble, right? So it's not that you should be willing to learn. You should be willing to be a team player. Are you getting back to the introspection side of the equation, right? How do you know yourself? Do you know yourself? What your strengths are, your weaknesses are? If not, just sit still, meditate on these questions. Hey, what are you good at, right? And that doesn't mean you're the best. There is a difference between your strengths and their difference is, hey, I'm the world class, right? I mean, nobody can beat me. So that's ego, right? So be confident yet humble. focus on your strengths and be aware of your strengths. Be also aware of your weaknesses, because no human is perfect. If you say that, hey, I'm good at everything in the world, because you may try to over represent yourself, as a product, people will see it, that, hey, this guy is just bluffing, right? So you should know your weakness and you should be transparent about it. Because one of the things that interviewers know, that people try to oversell themselves. Don't go overboard, overselling and hiding all your weaknesses, right? I mean, this is a very, very delicate balance, guys. I realize what I'm saying, but you have to be aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, and you have to be honest about it. And then, like I said, the bottom line of this is instill confidence that you can do this job while being humble, right? And humility is one of the key characteristics. Why? Because, that means that you're just hungry to learn, right? Like Steve Jobs had said, right? I mean, stay hungry, stay foolish, right? I mean, that is what he says. What does that mean? What that means is that you are just ready to learn, ready to absorb, because every situation, just like every day, is different for us, right? I would try to remember in your life which 2 days have been exactly identical. The answer is no, right? So every second is going to bring new challenges. And are you being humble to basically address that? Placement position. Now look at this picture on the right hand side. It says, please do not reshelve books, right? I mean, some of you might have gone to library and there may be a fiction section or whatever section that there may be, all right? And then you put, a cooking, book in the fiction section. Right. So what does that mean? Is that you will not be able to find that. So giving and stretching that Macy's or any store analogy, let's say you're shopping for tops or whatever, right? After you have shopped for tops or shirts, you put that in some other section, let's say kids section or whatever, right? Kids are not going to look at that particular thing, that shirt, versus, even though I want that shirt, I will not be able to get that shirt. Why? Because it's misplaced. So misplacing the book or misplacing that particular shirt in a different area means that you will not get picked up, right? Even though it's the best shirt, even though it's the best book that I really, really want to read, I will not be able to pick it up. Why? Because that book is just misplaced, wrongly placed. So positioning and placement is very important in this. So what does that mean, right? Place yourselves in such a way that you will be noticed by relevant companies. So how do we do that? So when do you basically, when do you see yourself in a couple of years? Which organizations are you applying to so that you are not misplaced? What does your LinkedIn profile look like, right? So for example, if you are applying for a cyber professional or ERP professional, does your LinkedIn say that, right? Or are you talking about all these keywords that are not even relevant to it, right? And another thing that we most often forget, especially in the social world, is that we put lots of stuff on social media, Instagram, Facebook, multiple, Snapchats and all that. People look, right? So if I Google on your name, or happen to look on the internet on your name, what kind of image will I get, right? And if I get that particular image of that person, will I be able to hire that person, right? So those are some of the things that we should be looking at in terms of in terms of placement and positioning. So again, to re-emphasize the point, don't get misplaced, be placed, position yourselves. Uh, Again, stretching that analogy of Macy's or stretching that analogy of the book in a library, misposition yourself so that that relevant job you are getting noticed, for that particular relevant job. Recruiters, right? I mean, just to give you another perspective over here. Um, Typically, a hiring manager will say, hey, I want so many engineers, right? I mean, this is the job description. And there will be, okay, whatever, coding skills and those kinds of things that we talked in the product side of the world. But when recruiters go, the battery of recruiters, they start looking for people. They start, finding on LinkedIn. They start finding on, multiple places. At that particular point, are you placing yourself, positioning yourself so that you can be found? One more thing is keywords are very important, like I said. Promotion, getting noticed. Again, we talked about the keywords and technologies, right? Articulation of what you bring to the table on your LinkedIn profile, in your resume. So there is a whole section of resume writing that we can talk about later on, Anandji. But, the resumes, the getting noticed, promoting yourself not in a pompous way, like I said, out tooting your horn, but, making people aware, right, about your existence. That becomes very important. And it is not just online. Of course, one of the things is online, networking with people. Remember, going back to the connections that we talked about, right? So some people may be connected in the company, and then forwarding the resume will make, your resume get noticed, if you will. So networking with the people and the industry, like attending conferences, local chapters, attending talks like this, and then I have shared my LinkedIn profile. Just having connections, network of people, and it's not just for obviously there is give and take, but it is just trying to get noticed that, hey, this guy is bringing this particular skills, and you're not being totally humble, saying that, yeah, this guy can do this job, right? So networking with people and the industry, I have seen worked, being, it's work in the people, right? So even if you are looking for a job, just keep up to, not looking, I should have said that. Even if you're not looking for a job, just keep up to date, right? Constant learning is the key over here. Then pricing wise, right, which is compensation. So let's look at what that means. What is your market value? Again, you are a product, right? So how do we look at compensation or pricing? Is that your market value is an estimation. It's an estimation as to how much you should be earning based on your job title, years of experience, skill. Location play a big part, right? I mean, you cannot expect Silicon Valley compensation, let's say, somewhere in other part of the world, for so location matters. So, that is the whole market value as to what you are bringing to the table, right? Again, there can be whole talk just on compensation, and HR guys will be able to help us with that. But essentially, what you can do from being an interviewee is just consult online tools, talk to your coworkers, network, right? Hey, what is the general compensation? And they'll give you a range, saying that, hey, this is what the range is. Ask your manager, right? I mean, current manager. And the most important thing is be realistic, right? I mean, in this frenzy that, hey, this guy is getting whatever compensation, this company is getting another compensation. Different companies are at different places, and you have to be just realistic. So what I would say is, assess your skill sets, assess you yourself as globally, right? But just optimize it locally, where you are, what your location is, and what company you are. You just optimize it. So that is the pricing side of the equation. So what are the key takeaways, right? So there are 7 key takeaways. So the first key takeaway, you are seen as a product investment, right? I mean, that delivers value. That is the first key takeaway, right? So position yourself as a product. Like I was giving an analogy of Macy's, right? if you are a shirt, be a shirt. And that is how people are looking at you, and how can you deliver value, right? The second thing is very important, is be yourself. Don't try to fake it, because faking it during the interview process will just simply, you will be able to. Interviewers are very smart. They have seen so many people, especially, over the years. They are just talking to people. They know who is faking and who is not, right? I mean, so that kind of stuff always happens. So be yourself. People can see through. The third thing is, focus on what you can influence and forget about the rest. Because if you try to worry about whether the mood is good or bad, you cannot influence that. But what you can do is you can judge, because that is what you can influence. And then you can position yourself, right? I have noticed people, interviewers, they just become angry during interview. And sometimes they ask a question, right? And when they ask a question, and if you answer something different, right, during that particular question, they get agitated that, oh, you're not answering my question or whatever, right? At that particular point, you just say that, hey, this guy is just in a bad mood at this particular point, right? Or that is his personality, or whatever is driving. Just stay calm, stay composed at that particular point, because that's when the EQ comes into picture, right? Because that is the behavior that you are exhibiting at the team play, even at family, right? I mean, sometimes your family members get upset with you. What do? If you go bark back, then the situation will just unnecessarily aggravate. So at that particular point, just stay calm and try to go ahead and take the blame and answer your question at that particular point, right? Fourth thing is, guys, don't get upset, right? I mean, there are so many factors. You may think after going through the interview and you might not get a job, or which is fine. That doesn't make you a bad product, right? I mean, I have to make sure that don't go into diffidence or self-defeating mode over here. Why? Because this is not the only company in the world, right? I mean, there are several companies. Startups are coming every other day. So don't get dejected, if you will, if you don't get it, because it's not just what you can control. There are lots of things that are outside your control. Never give up is step 5, right? Be a constant learner, right? Just keep on learning. Never give up. Try to introspect as to what is happening, why I was rejected in this particular job interview, and go ahead and change that perception. So the perception. So there are two things, right? Introspection and perception. So these guys, the interviewers, they are forming a perspective about you, and then you know what it is, which is an introspection, right? So if you think, getting back to the analogy I was saying, 1 to 10, let's say Java, you position yourself as 6, are you giving that perception to the interviewer that you are at 6, right? So that means be yourself, and you are giving the right perception. There has to be harmony between the introspection and perception during interview. And lastly, never forget that you are trying to make this world a better place, right? So, typically, I personally, I don't mean to be preachy in any ways, but the typical, philosophy that I personally follow is, I have come to this world, and when I leave this world, am I going to make this world a better place to the best of my ability? So, without being preachy, that is what I think the key takeaways during an interview process that I would like to share. So, with that, thank you so much. This is my LinkedIn. Hopefully it was on time. Half an hour to 40 minutes is what was given to me. But sincerely appreciate the opportunity. And now I will stop presenting and open for any questions.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Upendra. But does anybody have questions or even inputs? Because some of us are mentors also here. So even the
Yeah.
inputs.
Hello, this is Pratibha. Uh, Not necessarily a question. First of all, Upendra sir, very nice. The four P's is something that has to go into every almost every communication. Sometimes at a professional level, if you're not selling yourself, you're selling an idea or something like that. One thing that you mentioned that I really connected with, and maybe others can chime in, is you have to be able to know your weaknesses and be genuine about it. I mean, in the long run it works in your favor. To not just to be able to improve upon it, but to be able to let other people know, especially if you're working with the team members, so they will not just compliment you but also help you learn and help you grow in that area. And there is nothing, I think not feeling embarrassed or shy or anything like that about it is really important. That's where the humility and humbleness comes in. But the point that I wanted to emphasize was that it's actually really important, and if you think about it, it works in your favor in the long run, to know your weakness and to be genuine about it.
Very well said, Pratibha. Thank you for adding that. Yeah.
I think let me stop recording. Okay. I think we have covered most of the things which we wanted to cover. It is next week we are going to have another speaker. Most probably it will be my daughter, Dr. Gayatri Ganu, who is Senior Director in Facebook. And then after that week, we will have a break. And first week of January, we will start the actual workshop. Before that, we will give the total layout of the workshop. There are more than 40 people who are registered for the workshop. So we'll start with that. And we have connections like Maharashtra Bay Area also, that we should see that these recordings of these videos go to the maximum people, and we should try to give the benefit of our experts to our community. With that, I think I should stop recording, and I take your permission to end the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate